Hello, sister leaders. I am so excited. This is Dr. Karen Hills Pruden, of course. And look, we are moving into another season of podcast interviews. And as before, I have a wonderful sister leader here who is going to tell you what she has going on in this world here. And she also has a recent project that she's going to talk about today. And I know you're just as excited as I am to hear all about it. And so, Debbie Simmons, welcome to the Sister Leaders community and tell us the problem you solve here on Earth.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Karen. I'm so excited to be here because I love to be with sister leaders. So I feel like I found my spot. This is awesome. But just a little bit about me. I currently serve as the CEO of a large nonprofit called Anchor Point. And you can find that at anchorpoint.us. And we are expanding me into more and more speaking and influencing larger number of people because we know that what God has done in and through my life needs to get out to people because I'm not some superhero. I am just a girl that has learned to be obedient and do the next best step that God gives me. And so we have allowed me to be able to expand and create Debbie Simmons LLC. And what I do over there is I get to do some of my favorite stuff. And what it is I love to see people live their legacies now and leave their legacies for eternity. So, what I want us to do is not be those couch potatoes. I want us to be those people who are making a difference now, using the gifts that God has given us, overcoming adversity, taking on Satan in different places and making this world experience, leaving an impact. And we get stuck when we try and do that. So, one of my favorite things is to help coach and lead and inspire and motivate people to move in that right direction so that we live legacies now that leave them later. And so we'll get into that more, but that really is my heartbeat. And that's really my desire when I am sitting and talking with someone. So that's what I get to do. And I love it.
I love everything you're talking about because you're talking about the jam here. You talking about impacting others. You mentioned God because we are God loving individuals over here in the Sister Leaders community. And so, who is your ideal client? When you identify who your ideal client is it male, female? Is it businesses? Is it individuals? Tell us a little bit more about who your ideal client is.
That's a great question. And I would say, here's what I found as I've gone through the years and worked with leaders it is a person who wants to make a difference. Doesn't matter to me whether it's a male or female, business leader, homemaker, anything in between. It is the person that says, God, I know you put me here for something bigger, and I just don't know how to do it. And so it is an opportunity. So a lot of times I find people who are kind of in that midlife crisis trying to figure their way. They thought they knew, and now they're looking around going, is this all there is? And as a CEO, I can do that too, right? I can go, okay, I've built this, I've done all this, and it's making great impact. Is that it, God? And God's like, no, now I want you to share that with the world. And so the person that wants to make the impact. So generally, we find that's going to be someone maybe in their 30s to their 55, 60, trying to figure their way in the world. But, occasionally I get a teenager that comes along that is so kingdom minded, and who are we to stop them from being difference makers now? And so I'll invest in them and encourage them. And we do that a lot through Anchor Point, but also through some of the speaking to just challenge them to rise up. So that 30 to 60 is kind of where I'm seeing most of that kind of action right now. And I think it's just a great time. A lot of times our kids are getting older and we're going, okay, what's next? And I don't believe retirement is a biblical concept. I believe you might get to stop a job, but you know what? Until God takes me from this earth, I got things to do. And so my husband has this beautiful picture of a home when we're sitting outside drinking coffee, looking at the mountains or something, and just relaxing. I'm like, dude, that is like so not me. We got things to do. And so we are really looking at how we can make an impact, how our kids can make an impact, and how our families and continue to do that through a business. So that kind of gives you just a little bit of an idea of who kind of I work with. Most people say don't get in a conversation with me if you don't want me to, because I'll just start asking questions. What's God doing in your life? What do you think you're here for? How are you, where are you stuck? And so those are the things that I talk about all the time.
I love that. I love that. So you hit on quite a few generations that are individuals here in the Sister Leaders community, because we're a multi-generational community. So we have some sister leaders who are fresh out of college, who are getting their first professional job. We
Yeah.
have some that are middle managers, have been working for about a decade. We have some that are planning their retirement. We have some that are moving from corporate to entrepreneurship, and they're pretty excited about it. We do have a few people who said, I'm tapping out, I am retiring, I'm not going to do anything but my volunteer work, maybe join a couple of ministries around the church, but
Yeah.
I'm not working for anybody, including myself. And so you
Yeah.
kind of tap into, but we all do have a next act. And so whether that next act
Yeah.
is to work for someone else or work for ourselves or volunteer service, we all have something that we can contribute while we're here on this earth, while we're taking in breath. And so I love that you speak to all of those multi-generational individuals. And so tell me, have you always been an entrepreneur, or did you ever work in corporate? So are you an entrepreneur that moved to entrepreneurship, or were you just born an entrepreneur?
I don't know what I am. I just know whatever God tells me to do next. So just to give you a little crazy little history with me, I have always seemed to be in male dominated fields. Okay. So I grew up and I umpired guys baseball for a decade. Which was kind of unusual, right? And so I learned when I first graduated from college, I was an engineer. There was a mechanical engineer. There was two females out of 500 other men. And then I worked at Exxon as an engineer for many years. Went through a very challenging time, and God really turned my perspective on focusing on eternal things versus just here, what's here and now. And my engineering job led me to leave that and go and get a seminary degree. That took me to working on church staffs. So I've done startup churches, built several churches, and then had the opportunity with that. I thought when we moved back from South Carolina to Texas that God would just give me another job in a church. And he didn't. And I was like, dude, I got all these degrees you told me to get. This is what I was supposed to be doing. And what is going on? And um, he just said, wait. And so for a year, I was like, okay, God. So I can't sit still. So I got another master's in organizational management. And then from there, God provided a very unique opportunity with Prison Fellowship, Chuck Colson's organization, for me to be executive director of prison ministries for 4 states. And I did that for a while. Loved that. Gave me lots of flexibility. At that time, I had 7 children in my life, and was loving what I did. And God gave me this idea to start Anchor Point. And I was like, no way, dude, I am not doing that. I'm like, dude, you stopped at the wrong house. I got a full-time ministry. I got 7 kids. They never leave. They're all of my children are adopted. And so they come with trauma backgrounds. I got a 24/7 mission field. This is going to cost money. No, I'm not doing it. And I was pretty adamant because I'm pretty hard headed. But after about a year, he really was waiting for me to be obedient. And so he removed my job from Prison Fellowship in about a week. It was extremely painful. And he said, when the dust settled, he said, do you have time now? And I was like, yeah. I don't have a job now. Yeah. And I said, okay, God, I will do what you've asked me to do. And I'm like, I didn't know how to curate that from scratch. I just knew to trust him and do the next best step. And so for the last 15 plus years, we've built and expanded and grown Anchor Point, and built another church. And now we're expanding and looking at what we can do with me speaking wise and training and coaching to larger numbers of people. And so I don't know if you call that an entrepreneur, extrapreneur. I just know I do whatever's next. So if someone says, how's your career path? I go, it's a squiggly line that ends up somewhere. So that's me.
I love it. I love it. And actually, it's funny because you got to be like a sister from another mother or something, because your background definitely kind of mirrors mine. Because I came out of college and I built tax offices from the ground up. And
Yeah.
so from actual a blank piece of land till grand opening. And then I would leave after grand opening and go on to the next location and did that.
Okay.
And I worked for a Fortune 500 tax franchise company, one of the top big two coming straight. I don't know why they would give a college graduate such a humongous job, but man, I learned a lot being able to establish an offers from a piece of ground to an actual structure that had talent and systems and processes in place,
Mhm.
so much so that you can leave and go to the next location. And so hearing you talk about building churches, which churches require the same thing. They
Yes.
require talent, they require processes, they require a talent that have the right skills at the right time for the right position. You need your systems in place. You
Yep.
need your processes. And so, wow, yeah, I love that. And then I like the rebel part of you, because sometimes when God talks to me, I'm like, and it's funny because I'm like, dude, I don't know who you're talking to, but that is not for me. And I will disobey it only to come full circle later on another time frame, because he removed things out of the way. And just like he had the conversation with you, like, you got time now? Well, yeah, now I got time now that everything has been rearranged. And so I love that, but I also love the lessons that we learn when we do that.
Mhm.
Sometimes, the choice of having will, to be able to have the will to make our own choices, regardless of what what God is saying to us. He allows us the choice.
Mhm.
We're not forced to do anything, and he'll just sit back and wait on us to course correct. And sometimes he will move things out of our way or put things in our way to make us course correct a little quicker. But I love that he allows us to walk on this earth like that. And so I love that about you. And so I understand you have a very recent publication that has hit, and I want you to tell us all about it, how it came about, who is it for, and yeah, tell us about it, because that is the meat and potatoes I've been waiting for our conversation.
Well, let me tell you one last thing on that last subject you're talking about. I am at least becoming, and I'm sure you are too, a much better yes, Lord girl. And
Yes.
so my time to getting to yes now is certainly improving. Matter of fact, on days when I am brave, I even start the conversation. Okay, God, what is it that you want me to do? So that I think has been part of my journey too. And people go, you have such strong faith, and I'm like, no, 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 no. I just have learned to say yes, and I trust him because he's been faithful. But being moving toward yes, I'm starting. I'm hope I really am creating really a love for that in my life, to want to just start the day going, okay, God, what do you want? What can I do? How can I help? Let me be your yes girl. And I don't have to have all the answers. But I've determined that, you know what, if I knew all the answers, I probably would freak out and not go. So he only
Yes.
tells me the next best step. And I'm like, okay, I got that. Let me just do that one. And then I'll ask you again. And so that for me has been a great maturing thing. But this that gets us into exactly what you wanted to talk about is the book. It is called The Heart of Legacy. Interestingly enough, if you really knew the backside of that story, I really felt like God was leading me to write that book 6 years ago. 6 years ago. And I was like, no way, God, I am not a writer. I hate, and I hire staff to make sure that I don't have to do grammar. Okay. So I'm like, this is like a big hurdle for me. And I'm like, no way, God. No way, God. No, 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 no. You want me to do numbers? I can do that. But right? No. And he just was on me. And so 6 years ago, I actually sat down and I call it vomited up everything that I thought could be in a book. Okay. Forget the grammar, forget everything. I was just like, blah. And I was like, great, I've been successful. Save the document. I've been obedient. We're done with it. And I just let it sit. And so it sat for 6 years. And about a year ago, God was like, it's time. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Because I've told like no one. My husband, no one has read it. My husband knows that I did it, but no one has read it. And he's like, I need you to get it out. We're going to finish it. And I'm like, oh, no, 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 no. I'm like, I was obedient. And he just kept putting the pressure on. And I was super blessed to be able to, join with Israel Duran. And part of my project in that coaching was that I was just like, I've got to do this book. And I have no idea how to finish it. And interestingly enough, as we went through that process, I actually kind of rewrote the book because it ended up getting laid out totally differently than what we originally had planned. But it was a process where they held my hand because I've never done that before and walked me through each step of the way. But ultimately, the heart of legacy is about living your legacy now and leaving your legacy later. So, how do we do that? So, the subtitle is Through a Focused, Faithful, and Fearless Life. Okay, so the book is broken down. The first part of the book is my story, and you get to hear all the crazy things that I did or didn't do, and how God has redirected me and the amazing protection He has provided me over my life. But you can see this story that's progressed, not because I'm a great person, but because I have gotten to the yes of being obedient in the process. And these are the markers, God's markers that He's left behind. And then in the second half of the book, what we do is we focus on the three concepts: focused, faithful, and fearless. And there are 3 chapters, I think, for each section. And it focuses on what does it look like if I'm focused? And I give you some great tips and ideas of things that can make you a focused leader. And then I break it down into whether you're an individual or you're a parent, a family, or whether it's in your business. Because God's given me all those different things. And then at the very end, I create a section that tells life change stories of impact that we've had through Anchor Point over the years, with the girls and guys that we have worked with there. So it's just a great story of how God does amazing things through people who are obedient. And when we are brave and we're focused and we're faithful and we're fearless, God can do a lot of great stuff with that. And that's the heart that He's looking for in each of us. And that's the heart that we want to give to our children, to be brave, to be kingdom difference makers. So that's what the book's about.
I love it. So it's focused, faithful, and fearless.
Yes, yes.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. It's when you were talking about writing the book and putting it aside for 6 years, it made me think that, there's no time frame. There's no time frame for us to complete those things that God has decided that we're going to complete. So we may think that we're in control, and we may put things aside. We may even abort the mission from time to time. But when God says that we're going to do certain things and impact others and bless others, and when He has said it will happen, it will happen, and we will finish it. We will finish it. And so I love that: focus, faithful, and fearless. And we need all of that when we're approaching our goals, because if we're not focused, it may take us, instead of 6 years to get something done, it may take us 60.
Yeah,
Or
that's
maybe we don't even get it done.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe we don't even get it done, even though it was God's will for us to get it
Mm-hmm.
done. And then that faithfulness, we really have to believe that we can do it,
Mm-hmm.
because that's
Definitely.
what's going to fuel us to keep at it. Because if we don't believe that we can accomplish it, we're not going to keep at it to get it to completion and implementation and facilitation. And so I love that. And even that fearless part, I mean, in anything that we do in life, there's a small degree of fear when it's a new territory,
Mm-hmm.
but we have to overcome that. I've heard a lot of people say, in spite of the fear, do it. Do it in
Mm-hmm.
spite of the fear. And so I love that. And I look forward to, finding out what you have to say about all three of those particular areas, because I believe that many are going to be blessed by your lessons and your messaging as a result of your book. And even becoming an author. And so it's interesting. You were a reluctant author, is what I heard you say.
I was very reluctant, and now it's funny because when we released the book, we did make the bestsellers list in the United States and in Australia. So I'm like, God, now I'm a best-selling author. I'm like, wow. So it's been
Awesome.
that's all God, because I'm going, who do I know in Australia? I don't know anybody there, but I just am super excited now. I mean, because what the book exposed in me that was a real challenge is that it really meant that I kind of I'm laying my heart out there and my story out there. And it's really kind of raw for me. Right. And like, I don't, the questions that we all struggle with is, I feel like an imposter. I don't know that I can do this. And why would anything I say matter? And, and a lot of that is just thoughts that just get in our head, or Satan plays around with us, and we fall trap and victim to those. And I had to work through all of that and just trust that as I put it out there, that God would do with it what he's going to do with it. So the fact that we made the bestseller list, or the fact that I had one of my great mentors in the nonprofit world texted me yesterday, and she goes, I can't put your book down. It's so good. And I'm like, you really think it's good? I go, I thought it was pretty good, but these are things that we all face as we live legacies, and we are trying to be difference makers, and we're trying to do the next best steps. And God's just continued. It's amazing to me that there are still so many things that God can find to work on in me, to bring me to be a better representation of him. But I have already seen, part of my story is losing children. I lost quads early on, and, you know, people who've been touched by the book because they've lost children, or people who have adopted children who have challenging situations. Well, those things are in there, and so they've been touched with that, or people who are business leaders trying to be faithful to God, but struggling in their business, being touched by the book. It's just amazing to me that God can use what I thought they were big things to me, but I'm like, will they really help anyone? And what I've really come to learn is that, I am just on a journey. We all are. And my job is to reach back, and the book is part of doing that, and find others who just aren't as far along as I am, and bring them with me and encourage them. And hopefully some of them will catapult past me, and then others will just get up beside me. But I don't want to leave anybody behind, and I want them reaching back and getting people and bringing them with them. That's what this journey is about, all for his glory, right? So there's been I've really had a lot of interesting learning lessons too as we've gone through this, but that's what legacy is about. That's living the legacy he's given me is teaching me, and it's always fresh, it's always new, and it will always continue to make me look more like my daddy God. And that's what I want. So
I love that. And as I said in your intro, you're an awesome sister leader. So I want you to certainly, I'm sure many who are listening want to stay in contact with you. So let them know where they can find you in that virtual space. If you have anything going on, you're welcome to promote that as well. We like to reciprocate by being able to support you, and definitely where can they get this international best-selling book, and repeat the title for us so that we'll know what we're looking for.
Yes. And so I would love to stay in contact with anyone that wants to go on this journey together because really all we are doing is linking arms, like I said. So the book is called The Heart of Legacy by Debbie Simmons, and you can find it on Amazon. It's easy to find. And there's a Kindle version and a hardback and a paperback and all that good stuff. So you can easily get that there. Okay. The second thing I would remember is my website is thedebbie.simmons.com. thedebbie.simmons.com. And Simmons has two M's because some people think it has one, but it's got two M's, Simmons. And on there right now, you can actually, when you go to the site, it will pop up and it will say, here you can download the guide to building a lasting legacy. It's a free resource it kind of builds off the book, but it gives you the opportunity to start thinking through how you can make sure that you are building your legacy. So that is a great free resource right now. That will also get you connected with any communications that we do about the book or book signing or events that are coming up or broadcast. That's how we'll keep everyone involved. So I would encourage you to go to the website, look it over, figure it out from the download, and you'll be good to go. If you like Facebook, I think it's the Debbie Simmons Speaks is a way to find me there, and it's on LinkedIn. It's the Debbie Simmons. So that's where I am, and I would love to connect. I love to watch people grow. So I'd love to hear how the book impacts people, and then also the great things that people are doing for God.
Awesome. So you have every way. Make sure you go and support Debbie and make sure you buy the book. And as we wrap up another episode of the Sister Leaders podcast with another awesome sister leader, I thank you so much for hanging here and listening to this chat between Debbie and I. And don't forget, we are ready and promoting the Sister Leaders Conference coming up in October 3rd and 4th at the Rivers Casino. And right after this, you should see a video recapping last year and telling you how to stay connected. And so until the next podcast, bye.